America's original and oldest heritage pack company, Duluth Pack, hosts a podcast led by CEO Tom Sega. Real stories with real people who we admire, plus outdoor industry conversations, business discussions, entrepreneurial advice, and more. Now enjoy this week's episode of Leader of the Pack.
Hey folks, this is Tom Sega from Duluth Pack, and this is the Duluth Pack podcast, Leader of the Pack. Boy, do we have a leader with us today. It's Matt Manasse. He is pickleball coach to the stars, founder and CEO of McNasty Entertainment, and athletic ambassador for K-Swiss Global Brands. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Almost got my name right, Tom. You practiced it a couple times and it was almost there.
Okay, will you tell our listeners that Tom can't listen very well and he butchered your name? And
no, you did. You were close. You said Manasse instead of Manasse.
Manasse,
so it's
folks.
Just it's a little the wrong emphasis, you know.
Well, exactly. And you know what?
Great.
I'll probably butcher it again here now that you got me going, Matt. But hey, we're going to jump in here because you have so much going on. First of all, It's incredible. But this whole pickleball thing, but before we get into that, tell us, I mean, where'd you grow up and what was your childhood like to become this tennis star and now pickleball star?
Yeah, the pickleball turn was way later and one that I did not envision. But I grew up in Erie, Pennsylvania. Not known as a tennis powerhouse. Two older sisters. My parents did not play tennis until they met each other, later in life. And when I was 3 years old, we moved into a house with a tennis court, actually. And my sisters had started playing, and I wandered on to the court as a 3-year-old when my dad was playing with my sister. And that's kind of how the love affair with tennis started. My dad, learned how to teach tennis a little bit just in books. He's a very smart guy. Was a doctor. So I learned my tennis skills from him, just like, all right, turn, set your racket back, swing. So at 5 years old, that was kind of my first lesson was from my dad. And then after that, trying hockey and some other different sports, soccer, swimming, I kind of did it all as a kid. And, when you get to 12 years old, you kind of had to make a decision at that, you have to specialize nowadays or even back then. And I think not having my teeth knocked out, that's what my mom, she made that decision for me. She's like, we don't want you to get your teeth knocked out. So hockey's a no-go and you're pretty good at tennis. So I chased that dream. My sisters did other stuff. One was diving, one was fashion design. Both my parents are very, active and athletic. They like to go biking and swimming and hiking and all that stuff. So it was kind of always not that we were pushed into athletics, but it was a lifestyle that I was accustomed to and used to. And I'm glad that tennis became part of my life, and obviously now pickleball.
And then you decide when you're going to go to college that, hey, we might as well just move all the way across the country and go to the University of Southern California. Was that for a tennis scholarship? Was that to go play tennis? Or was it, hey, I just want to go where it's warm?
Well, so that's a great question. So I was looking for kind of at the time the best tennis program, that combined tennis and great academics. Academics is something that was very important to me and my family. So it was that combo. Where can you get the best tennis? At that time, I still, naively thought that I could be a tennis pro and make it on tour. That was, quickly my mind changed probably after my first year of college when I saw the level, like, wow, there's a lot out there. But yeah, my coach in college or in high school, Fernando Samayoa, he had went to USC, so he had a connection there to Peter Smith, who was the coach there back in the day. And I went on a recruiting trip. I loved it. I had family actually out in Manhattan Beach, California, in Redondo Beach, California. So I had spent time in California. I loved it. Part of me wanted to be a movie star as well, or something along those lines. So, I fell in love with the school on my recruiting trip. It was just something bigger and different than I'd ever seen. Going to see a college football game, USC against Notre Dame, right around Thanksgiving. That was my first ever football game I ever saw, in live, college or pro. So that was just kind of like knocked my socks off, and I was like, this is where I have to be. Things changed after a year of being there. I wasn't getting a lot of playing time, which led me then to change my path. And I'm sure that's the next question is, I ended up moving cross country again to Purdue, and finished, my 3 years there, had a good experience, founded a fraternity there. Kind of, when I was in college, not that I lost my love for tennis, but I think once the dream of being a professional was gone, you lose a little. And I just had other interests. I think after 22 years of playing tennis, you're like, okay, what else can I do? And the social scene grabs you, the girls, the partying, stuff like that. It was, there was other things to strive for. And I had a good time at Purdue, and that was where my tennis playing days ended.
Matt, as a athlete, a high-end athlete in college, I mean, that's a whole nother full-time job onto itself. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you went through? Because, you said that you realized, you kind of inferred that, hey, I'm probably not going to make it into the pros.
Right.
But yeah, you're grinding. It's a full-time job. Plus, oh, by the way, there's this thing called school.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's so funny because the memory of those times, I obviously know what I went through, but I can't even picture doing it or being in that space. It's really, it's 18 years ago that I was a freshman. At the time it didn't feel like, or at the time, sometimes it felt hard, sometimes it didn't, I guess, but it was just what you did. You wake up at 5 a.m. for 6 a.m., work out till 7:30, you're in class at 8, class all day. You have a 2-3 hour practice in the afternoon, you have study table, and then you dinner and you go to bed, and that's kind of like you rinse and repeat for 4 years, and the next thing you're out of it. I mean, I love tennis. My teammates, I love my teammates. We had a good friendship and bond while we were in school. I love my fraternity brothers. It's just like it's anything in life. When you're in it and you're going through it, hopefully you're passionate about it and you care about it enough that it doesn't feel like a job, doesn't feel like work. You're always striving for that next thing. And, people out here in LA are always like, hey, I've been out here for 25 years in LA and it goes by quick. That's what people say to you. Right. And it's been 18 years since college. So yeah, things have gone by pretty quick.
Well, I'll tell you what, you have aged well, 18 years since college, and you look like you're still in college. So I guess all that good exercise and that good living in Southern California is doing you well, Matt.
Trying.
So you graduate college, and then it's like, holy cow, I got to get in. I got to get a life here. I got to get into the real world. And right. In 2012, you become marketing and promotions coordinator for, is it Babolat?
Yeah, Babolat.
Okay. And that's in Denver. Tell us a little about that. How did you end up now in Denver? Obviously a job, but yeah. Was that a place you were seeking to go to? And number one, and then what did it entail and what were your responsibilities and what did you succeed at, maybe not succeed at?
Yeah, I always wanted to be a sports agent. After, not always, I guess during college, I fell in love with the show Entourage, as many did. Watching Ari Gold on screen and watching these guys kind of strive for greatness. It was very aspirational. And I was like, how am I going to become a sports agent? And tennis was obviously my in to trying to do that. My intern at IMG Academies in college for marketing and was trying to kind of get my foot in the door and was delivering packages to the agents daily, even though that wasn't my responsibility, just to get some time with them. And the closest thing I got to that job through interviews and everything else was Babolat. It was a couple good candidates. It was my first real job interview. Was flown out to Colorado, and it was a young, good marketing team. Babolat was a great company. Is still a great company. Had players like Nadal and Roddick and all these people that I had looked up to. And they had a marketing coordinator position. And I think on my interview, what kind of won me the job was that I really did a lot of research and just kind of knew a lot about the company just from being a tennis nerd that I was. They asked me a lot of history questions about the brand, and I kind of went above and beyond with that, just because tennis was my life, and they were impressed with that. But anyways, yeah, my responsibilities, I was in charge of partially sponsored junior players, fully sponsored junior players, the collegiate competition team, senior team, and then was also kind of fulfilling orders for the pros that was sent to me from the pro marketing manager. So I had a lot of different responsibilities in terms of scouting players at events, junior players, and then also, constant communication with colleges and kind of everyone in the tennis world. And it helped me really meet a lot of important people, from agents to pros to college coaches. After a couple years there, or almost 2 years there, I didn't see a growth potential. So in order for me to get to the position I wanted in that company, the person would have had to leave for me to have that job. So there was no job creation. And I, at that point I was like, look, I'm already 25 or whatever I was, 24. And it's like, I don't want to wait here 10 years making XYZ. And an opportunity to get into college coaching came about. My last actually trip with Babolat was to the NCAAs in Illinois, the tennis NCAAs. We were doing scouting there and kind of outreach to coaches and whatever. And at that event, I was like, wow, this is exciting. I haven't been back in college tennis, for a couple of years, and maybe on the coaching side is something that I could be good at. Then I got my first job at Wisconsin.
Okay, before you move on there, I do have to make a comment, Matt.
Yeah.
You're the first person that I've ever come across that said, I really want to be like Ari Gold.
I don't know if I wanted to be like Ari Gold. I think, to be honest, if my personality is closest to anyone, it's probably closer to E in some ways, although I think I'm not such a, stick in the mud. He was a little lame at times, but it's something around there. I'm a little understated, but yeah, just the fact that the guy was always striving for more, and I like that. But yes, my mouth isn't that bad, and I don't treat people quite like that either.
Yeah, you live in LA, you might run into these guys. I hope they're listening to our podcast, but
Yeah,
you may have to fend them off.
I worked with the real Ari Emanuel for quite some time. The character that Ari Gold is based off of, and he's been pleasant to me. So that character might have been more his younger years, but it was cool, in that 360 moment too, or 180, whatever, to come full circle at 360, yeah, and to meet the person that kind of drove me to LA in the first place.
That's awesome. So you had just alluded to actually getting back into tennis when you were on a recruiting trip, and in 2013 you become the women's assistant tennis coach at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
Yeah.
What went into being an assistant coach?
Yeah, it was my first. You see college tennis obviously as a player for 4 years, and you don't really know what you're getting into as a coach, especially your first coaching gig, and you're still young. I mean, at 25 years old, you're still a kid. My sister had just moved to Madison, Wisconsin. Randomly, it's not like I planned to chase a job there, but she just moved a month earlier to finish her veterinary pathology school. This job came open on the women's side, and I was lucky enough to be hired, and I had a good 2 years there. I learned a lot of what to do, a lot of what not to do. And after 2 years there, I really fell into an amazing experience at Oklahoma State. I left Wisconsin. I think the best thing I did after leaving Wisconsin was I paid my own way to go to NCAAs in Waco, Texas that year. I was looking for a job. I was in between jobs. Things ended in a weird way, let's just say, at Wisconsin. Didn't get along too well with the head coach there, and I needed a job. And I went to Waco, Texas, was, networking with folks. Went out every night to the local bar with all the college coaches and was like, I'm looking for a gig and just trying to put myself in the best spot. And after the full summer of interviews, there was a couple places that I didn't get that I was really pumped up about, and then finally Oklahoma State, really at the last hour. Originally, I heard they were only looking at female candidates. A buddy of mine who was working there, Nate Feldman, was like, you know what? I think, Chris Young is interested in you at Oklahoma State. I think you may have a shot. It was kind of the last ditch effort. I wrote a Facebook message and we got on the phone. A couple of days later, I ended up being on campus for an interview. And I think he saw that I was passionate and hungry. And he took a chance, to be honest, on me, which, in hindsight, especially now, is something that I really appreciate, because it definitely changed the course of my career. It elevated who I was as a coach, especially because of the success we had year one. So I went into a program at Oklahoma State. They just built a new facility, a pretty good team. They were 15 in the country when I got there. And, an addition or two with recruiting. And I think I made a great impact. I still have a great relationship with those players. And first year we made the NCAA final. And we had match points on Stanford in the final. And that kind of, I think, changed the course of, who I was as a in the tennis world, right? I was a fine college player, very mediocre. I think I always got along well with people. My career at Wisconsin was just okay as a coach, right? We did okay, but then to step into Oklahoma State and then to have success on like a national scene was really special. And then that allowed me to do a lot of other things, both on the pro tour and then further on in college as well.
How stressful was that on your first year there and making it to the NCAA finals?
Yeah, there was a lot of like growing pains, I would say, that first, semester, and even into second into the season. I mean, I will say I learned how to conduct myself as a professional from Chris Young. So just the ability to look, as in your early 20s as a guy, and the party scene and all this other stuff, and it's like, at some point you have to say, hey, this is like, I'm in a career, I'm going to be professional, this is what I want to focus on, this is what I want, and this is how I'm going to get to where I want to go. And I think just seeing him take the position so seriously, really care about the girls, and care about the craft, and just like be all in, was inspiring. And I think once I changed my mindset to kind of echo that, I think it was like a full buy-in from the girls to me and me to them. And I think it really changed everything. And it gave me more confidence, obviously, with having success at the end of that year, that I could be a success again. I think, when you have a good junior tennis career and then maybe in college you don't have the best career, you start getting used to failing. And I think getting used to failing while it's good, I think I was always motivated to continue to bounce back, but you need some success at some point, right? And you need to feel like your hard work is going to pay off, and you need that one right thing to find the confidence. And I think at Oklahoma State, that was a huge part.
Good for you. It's to recognize that growth that you made, and you have to transition to a professional, and this is a career. That's pretty cool that you did that. And then you, in the tennis world, before we move on to pickleball, which is it's so cool. But you moved to Duke University.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I mean, the move to Duke was a little bit more of a personal. I was dating a girl at the time, a professional tennis player. She was living with me in Oklahoma State in Stillwater, and I don't think she loves Stillwater, Oklahoma. And we were looking for kind of just a different vibe. And I was wanting to be a head coach, or I thought so at the time. And, I was like, the Duke position opened up a little bit closer to home on the, more on the East Coast. And Duke University is Duke, right? To have Duke on the resume is a big deal. and working with more American players and all of that stuff was big with where I wanted to go at the time. And yeah, it was I got the job pretty much right away after the success we had at Oklahoma State. It's funny, I had to really stress about interviews a couple of years before at Oklahoma State, at Wisconsin, and then the Duke position opens up, which should be the hardest one to get. And it was basically, hey, do you want the job? So that was a little bit different vibe. And we had 2 successful years there, won an ACC title, back-to-back Final Fours, plenty of All-Americans. But at the end of that time, I think, especially after I'm getting towards what is this? I was 31 years old or something like that back then, 30 years old. And it was just, I didn't see a trajectory in college coaching at that time that was like, okay, in 20 years, do I want to be rolling out the balls and coaching college tennis anymore? And financially, is it going to be beneficial to me? Is it going to fulfill me? And I think I just definitely wasn't wanting to do it anymore. And so I left, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. I thought maybe I'd give the Pro Tour a shot, and that kind of led me into a couple months right before the pandemic. I coached Shelby Rogers on tour, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to give tennis one last shot. Maybe the Pro Tour is for me. Maybe that'll give me more fulfillment, more challenge. And let's just say the pandemic couldn't have come at a better time, because I think the Pro Tour might have been the least fulfilling.
Really?
And I think it's funny when you get to a certain point that you think is going to be the best thing, it's maybe not.
Wow, that's interesting. That's life-changing when you thought that's going to be the pinnacle and you go, that's just not fulfilling.
Right.
So, okay, tennis, pickleball. Okay, we use a racket, we use a ball, we use a net. But you transitioned to pickleball now at Riviera Country Club in California.
Yeah.
Did you know about this whole pickleball thing, or at the time did you just like old people?
It's a little bit of both. I think I get along well with old people. My parents are a little older, so that's probably something to do with it. But no, to be honest, and just to touch on the pandemic, I think that's how I really got into it. I went back to Pennsylvania during COVID. My parents were in Florida. I didn't really have much to do besides make TikToks and figure out the next move. But at the same time, it was the first time, I think, since graduation that there was no pressure to when's your next job? How are you going to elevate yourself? What's next? Other people are getting they're gaining on you, and you need to find something. And that pressure was off because the world stopped. And I could be creative on TikTok. I could do whatever I really wanted to do. And there was the pressure was off. And I was invited to play pickleball in Erie, started to love it, got good pretty quickly. Through Instagram, social media, people started sharing clips of pro pickleball and all this stuff, because I was sharing clips of my playing, and people were like, oh, you should try playing pro. Like, you look good. And I went to Florida and ended up meeting the #1 player in the world on the men and women's side through a buddy, Ryan Sherry and Tony Giannone. And it's just eye-opening to a whole new world of like, wow, pickleball is like real. Maybe I can be good at this. Maybe it's something I can be pro at. It was a quick transition. At that time, you really could jump into the tour right away. It was top 30 in the world, it seemed, almost after 6 months. So my first experience out in California was for pickleball was a pro event. I met Doug Ellen, the creator of Entourage, played with Sam Query out here as a former pro tennis player, now pro pickleballer. And I was like, wow, pickleball is the ultimate networking sport. Like, I already know about the Riviera Country Club from college tennis. I'm going to move out to LA. I'm going to start the program with the Riviera Country Club. And in my eyes, I was like, that's going to lead me to becoming Ari Gold, right? I'm going to meet the right people, and that's going to allow me to become an agent or whatever it is here in Hollywood. And, fast forward a couple months, I was coaching at the Riviera. I started the program, and off to the races.
So For the lay person out there, tell us the difference between tennis and pickleball, other than really good tennis players are young, and we all stereotypically 20 years ago or 10 years ago thought of pickleball players as old people like me. But
Yeah.
it's not anymore. Neither one
No.
of those, they're crossing over like crazy. But what's the real difference on the two sports?
Yeah, I mean, look, they both have it's a racket sport. One's a paddle, one's a racket. The ball is different. The pickleball court is a little bit smaller, about a third of the size of a tennis court. Doubles is more of the emphasis in pickleball versus singles being the emphasis in tennis. The main difference in terms of strategy is that area from the net 7 feet back called the kitchen, or the non-volley zone. So it's the only racket sport that you actually can't close off an angle and take a ball out of the air like right up to the net. So you can't step in that area. So it evens the playing field a lot. There's a lot more strategy and nuance. But I think you want the main difference in terms of the recreational world for the layperson. It's way more community driven. It's more social. It's more fun in a lot of ways. And it's just easier to play. Like anyone can play. And I was listening to a podcast with Gary Vee actually a couple of days ago, and he was talking about pickleball, and he's like, the reason why basketball, grew so much, when I was a child, and Gary, and he's a little bit older than me, but it's because everyone can play. You could have a hoop in your backyard, you could have a hoop at the public courts. All you needed is a ball, and it didn't really matter your athletic ability. Like you could play horse, you could shoot, you could have run around with your level, and I think that's why it became so popular. And pickleball is the same. Anyone can play. Easy to play, hard to master. Yes, to be elite, you have to have a skill set, a drive, a work ethic, all of that. But the barrier to entry is low, and I think there's something about the sound of the ball, the ability to be close to others on the court, that it creates such a fun and social environment that 4 years ago, I'd been like, well, let's see if pickleball is going to last. And now I'm very confident that it will.
It's exploded everywhere. I mean, we all knew it to be in the, well, let me go back up even, Matt. Pickleball, is this a sport that originally was for the retired folks that now has become more mainstream for younger folks, that it's just ever popular? We're in northern Minnesota up here.
Yeah.
And there's pickleball courts. People are putting them in their yards. People are playing everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it started in 1965 in Bainbridge Island. Jay Pritchard made the sport for his younger son, who was saying, oh yeah, you used to make up games when you were a kid in the summer. Well, like, I'm bored on this island. Make a game for me. And so it was made for a kid. I think the early adopters, for whatever reason, became, it's a smaller court. It's a funky name. It's, what the paddles were back in the day didn't allow you to have, brings too much athleticism to the sport, and it's a new sport. So obviously there's no money in it. So you don't have a ton of athletes trying to get into the sport. And it became, an older person's sport. And I think, yes, it is 100% skewing younger. Gen Z is really, taking a liking to it, not necessarily because they want to be pros or become the most competitive, but because it's fun and social and it's a lifestyle. And it really is something that is for all ages. And you can be as competitive as you want with it.
If you had to put your thumb on one or two reasons why you think this sport has absolutely skyrocketed, it's exploded.
Yeah.
What would you say it is? I mean, you alluded to something and you said anyone can play it.
Yeah.
Is that part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something addicting about the game, that it combines the perfect physical and mental strategic aspect. So in terms of a sport and problem solving, it kind of has it there. Again, the barrier to entry, anyone on day one, if you've never played a racket sport, even if you're not an athlete, you should be able to go out and play a game. I'm not saying you're going to play at a high level, because you probably won't, but you're going to be able to hit the ball back and forth. And I think, just like I alluded to earlier, in terms of, at some point you need to find success, right? I think a lot of people go to tennis or golf or some other sports and their misses are just wild. And there's like, I'm never going to be good at this. I'm never going to find success. And they quit. I think pickleball, the fact that, you can have a rally on day one and find success, it brings people back. And I think for whatever reason, the community around it is really keen to help others. I went to public parks. I played with the number one player in the world 3 months into playing. He didn't need to like me and help me out and show me his technique. And for whatever reason, pickleball players are really willing to help others in the community that are worse than them, because I think at some point someone helped them. And I've gone to a million public parks and I've just jumped in rec games with 3.5 players, 3.5 level players. It's just something that you do. And I think that community aspect is something that's very different than almost any other sport I've seen.
Did you see in the last week the young lady that was playing, and there's no way she was going to get the ball? Reached around and hit it from the other side of her head. I saw that the other day.
Yeah, that was Mary Brasha.
Okay, so
pro pickleball player. Yeah.
Oh, that was that in a tournament?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that might have been MLP or it was just a normal PPA event, but it was a tournament. It's probably 6 to 8 months old, but it's making its round for sure.
I just saw it the other day. So Matt, a question for you. First of all, let me stop there. And folks, our guest today is Matt Manasse.
There you go.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you got it. I'm
feeling pretty good about myself now. Holy cow. And he is the pickleball coach to the stars. He's the founder and CEO of McNasty Entertainment and the athlete ambassador for K-Swiss Global Brands. Matt, for people who want to follow you, can you give out all your social handles so all of our listeners can go and follow you?
Of course.
So that all of our pickleball aficionados out there can learn from you.
I'd love to. Yeah. Instagram, Twitter is at Matt Manasse, MattManasse. And then I think TikTok, I am at Pickleball McNasty, which is kind of what I'm known for in the space is that branding of Pickleball McNasty. I'm not a nasty guy. It's just, it's close to Manasse, and I've always been called McNasty, but,
well, you played hockey, so maybe that's where that
exactly.
So they can find you at those. Can you say those one more time for people?
Yeah,
I really want
Twitter,
people to follow you.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram is at Matt Manasse, and then TikTok is at Pickleball McNasty.
Follow Matt, folks. You can learn all kinds of things, and this guy has it going on. Boy, we're just getting started here. 2023, so just a short year and a half ago, you sign a contract as sports commentator with the Tennis Channel and PBTV. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, we, I had done some commentary work with Tennis Channel, doing PPA events, some MLP events as well. And then, I was luckily the first ever desk, how you watch a basketball event or a big tennis event, and they have, these desks where the players come on afterwards and get interviewed, and that's where the big commentators are. Pickleball TV launched November of last year at the Nationals in Dallas, and they picked myself and Cameron Blackwood to be the hosts of this first PBTV desk. I had to suit up every day and look the part, and it was really special, for the players, for the fans. I think it was, kind of a signifying that pickleball is real and we've made it. And, I luckily got to go on following Sports Center on ESPN for a celebrity event. And I was, live there with my microphone and welcomed everyone into the world of pickleball. And that was something that was really exciting. I don't think my heart has ever raced faster ahead of that, but luckily we got it done.
How much research, how much preparation when you're going to be a commentator? You have all these people that are going to be in the tournament. You must have a staff that's getting information for you so you can fill in there.
I wish, I wish that was, pickleball is early on in the process. The research and first of all, the amount of data that's out there on each player, doesn't exist as much as tennis, right? You have, Novak Djokovic is playing for 20 years. A lot of these players on tennis have had massive junior careers and they have accomplishments in the junior ranks, and there are various coaches, and there's just the documentation and data collection in tennis and these other sports a little better than pickleball at the moment. We're getting there. It's improving fast. Excuse me. But yeah, a lot of it is, they're hiring folks that know the game because they're living it. And that they're, a lot of my research is from knowing the players personally, playing against them, knowing their coaches, knowing their families, being around them at tournaments, asking questions. So, and now as new players come in, yes, that's when more of the research has to come, making sure that, you speak to their families, speak to them, try to get little tidbits. But it's fun. I love being around the sport and getting to, I went on Tennis Channel to do a tennis show as well. I always wanted to be a sports broadcaster as well. I thought if I wasn't an agent, I could be a commentator. Tennis, it's hard to do that unless you're top 10 in the world. But because of pickleball, it's allowed me to kind of backdoor my way into the tennis side of things as well.
How much travel is involved now in that part of your life, with obviously tournaments going on all the time?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt right now, Crush Yard, which is the chief brand ambassador of Crush Yard, which is a venue business out of Charleston. So I owe a lot of time there, and I love being there, building that community and building that facility brand. We're going into Nashville, and Orlando, or Orlando and Nashville next in that order. So I'm on the road a ton in Charleston. I'm on the road, emceeing and commentating a lot of these PPA and, the professional pickleball tour at Major League Pickleball. And then a lot of these corporate branded events that I've hosted that also requires travel. Unfortunately, not everything's in Los Angeles, so I wish it was.
Can you tell us where the pro tour, I mean, I would assume mostly southern states, so in the winter months that it can be played in those states, but is it all over the world now? The pro tour?
I mean, the PPA, well, yes. So the PPA is actually expanding globally too, as well as Major League Pickleball. They're owned by the same company, so they've merged, but separately or together, however you want to say it, they're spreading globally. China, India is growing at a massive rate, which is awesome. There's a lot of opportunity there and a lot of great talent coming out of there, but just more on the recreational side. I mean, that's going to be a huge part of the sport is in Asia. As far as, domestically, tournaments are, yes, a ton in California, Florida, Arizona, Texas. But the founders of the tour in Utah, I'm going to Salt Lake City at the end of this month for an event. We'll be in Aspen, a week or so later for another event. I mean, they're putting there's been tournaments in your state in Minneapolis, Lifetime Fitness there in Minnesota. So the state of Minnesota, not Minneapolis, but so it's really growing everywhere.
And so if you weren't busy enough already, Matt, and last year you decided that, hey, I got some free time here, I might as well found and become CEO of my own company, which is McNasty Entertainment LLC.
Yeah.
And that company focuses on hosting, producing, and consulting pickleball events and functions. Yeah. So what was the thought behind that, number one, with you're so busy with all these other things already, and where do you want to take that?
Yeah, the live part of the business, hosting events, emceeing is something that I just fell into. I used to be definitely afraid of public speaking. In college at Purdue, I had to take a public speaking class, and I actually walked out and took it online. And I remember before, some other presentations in college, later in college, I would take a couple of shots before taking the stage or whatever. I just really, really hated it. But again, I guess after slowly building your confidence and having some successes and being forced to do it, I've become very comfortable at public speaking. But I was thrown into kind of a situation in Florida. I was set to host an event for 11 Vodka, a charity event for breast cancer awareness in Miami. And I got all the sponsors, I got all the pros. I was going to, I came up with the tournament format and the run of show. And then I got there and she goes, you're emceeing this whole thing, right? As well. And there was like 400 people. And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that was part of the fee. And I just, accepted it. And I got on the mic all day and for 8 hours, really, in front of a ton of people, ran this show. And more than just doing it well, I enjoyed it. Like, it was something that I really had passion for. And I liked that, me running the show and being on the mic could really deliver a good experience to other people, and they could leave having a blast. And like, you're the reason, or part of the reason, that they had a fun time. And afterwards, Michelle Beauchamp, who's marketing at 11, she's like, you should do this for a living. You should host events. And that kind of, clicked for me. And I was like, you know what, this is something I can do. And since then, I've hosted events for Mike's Hard Lemonade and Truly Hard Seltzer and Google and Amazon, and countless others, really. And it's been obviously good for business, but it's just been a blast as well.
So you are known as the pickleball coach to the stars.
Yeah.
Can you divulge some names of people that our listeners would know that you've worked with?
Of course.
And are they good players?
Yeah. Emma Watson, Jamie Foxx, McConaughey was on the tennis court, but he's a good tennis player. Drew Brees, a ton of athletes, celebrities, kind of all over the gamut. But it's been really fun. Yeah, I got to work on that CBS Pickled show a couple years back with Stephen Colbert. So we had Will Ferrell and Dierks Bentley and a ton of really cool stars, 16 celebrities on that show. And anyone who's gotten into pickleball in the last few years that's a celebrity, I've probably played with at one point or another.
Are the celebrities pretty serious about it, or are they just, hey, this looks fun and I want to have fun with it, but I'd like to at least be halfway accomplished?
Yeah, I think it's a variety. It's everywhere in between. There's some that it's just a fun thing. They want to get a little better, or they were introduced to me to even try it out at the beginning and then got really obsessed with it. But then there's some that really want to get good. There's an athlete that I just started working with, a big time baseball player. I'm not sure I can say or not yet, but so I won't. But he is very good, very athletic, and really wants to be great. And I think will be good. It's so impressive. Someone that doesn't have a racket background, that he's already so good. And I think so it's fun that it's really all levels, all kinds of people. I will say that the celebrities and big names that I work with are all good people. I think there's really only been one that I can think of that only lasted a week or so, because I didn't want to be around that type of person. So the people that I've worked with are great people. I think they take care of me. I want to make sure they have a great time and learn the game, and can then influence their friends and have a good time as well.
Is it very different coaching somebody who they have a whole career, they just want to play this sport, they want to have some lessons from somebody who's very accomplished at it, versus when you were coaching Division I collegiate or professional tennis players? Very different mindset.
Totally different. And I think that was something that I had to learn when I got out to LA. Even before I really started getting the gig at the Riviera Country Club, I was looking for odds and ends, ways to make money out here. And I was coaching high school tennis actually for the first 3 months at Yeshiva, Los Angeles, EULA. And I was coaching the girls team. And you go from D1, the heights of D1 and pro tennis, to high school girls that it's really just like something they picked. It's like an activity, and it was really refreshing because you want to teach them, and I did. I think they got better and all of that stuff, but like you also just want to see them have a good time, and like that's what they're there for. They're there to enjoy themselves and get some sweat and be athletic for the day, and then they're on to the rest of their lives. So I think I learned a lot from them, and the fact that like not everything needs to be so serious. You need to adjust your stance as a coach based on the expectations and goals of the people you're working with. So if someone doesn't want to be a pro pickleball player, you don't need to coach them like a pro. You still need to teach them. You still need to make sure that they learn, but it's not quite the same as D1 college. And I think with the Riviera Country Club was the same. Look, my goal was to make sure they sweat, that they have fun with the people around them, and that they get a little bit better. But I think I was at the Riv for about a year and a half, and it was really a fun time. And I would say my clients really became my friends at the end of the day, and it was a really fun opportunity there.
You are a sponsored professional. Would you share with because we'd love to give you a free commercial, share with our listeners some of your sponsors of you personally, so that we can support them?
I appreciate it. Yeah. For shoes and clothes, I'm with K-Swiss. Been with them for about a year now, and we have a long-term partnership, so I'm very excited about that. They really make unbelievable shoes, and taking care of your feet is something that's important on the court. And the fact that they just really backed my passion for the game and gone into pickleball so heavy is awesome. Crush Yard, the shirt I'm wearing here, is the venue business that I'm a part of, chief brand ambassador there. Pickleball courts, the venues where people can play is such a growing part of this industry. There's not enough courts. There's more demand than supply. So I think we're building a really cool concept in Charleston. And then my paddle company, Sweet Spot, and then Aliyat. Sweet Spot's kind of the beginner and intermediate paddles, and Aliyat will be the premium. Sweet Spot's already in Dick's Sporting Goods, and Aliyat will be there shortly as well.
That is awesome. I got one question before we move on to our next section.
And copper compression. I apologize. I should have worn my sleeves on here, but I'm not tense, so I don't need to wear them inside during the day. But copper compression is awesome, and they really have a great team. Drew Brees is also involved with them, and I've tried to do a lot with Drew. We're both Purdue guys, so to kind of have a friendship with him, since meeting him a few years ago has been really special, because when I was a tennis player at Purdue, that was the last team he was going to come and visit if he came on campus, and he was just this untouchable figure, and now it's kind of really cool to call him a friend, and he's done a lot of good stuff for my career and helped me, and so I'm always thankful for that.
You'll need that copper when you get to be my age and
I'll
Drew Brees, right?
I'll send you some stuff. Just let me know.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Woo! Winters are cold and long up here. So, Matt, we're going to go into our final section of the podcast, and we call this our packed questions segment. No take on Duluth Pack there, but we're going to just do a couple rapid fire questions so our listeners can get to know just you personally a little bit. Favorite movie you've ever watched?
Oof. Oh my God. I don't know why it comes. Mighty Ducks 2, and you're in Minnesota, so it's a hockey movie. It's very nostalgic. Love it. Mighty Ducks 2.
A guy who's traveled, favorite place that you've ever traveled to that you'd like to tell our listeners, you got to go there?
You got to go to Thailand. If you can get to Asia and you can get to Thailand specifically, it's a must.
Why?
The people are amazing. The food is even better. The beaches are beautiful. It's just so different and eye-opening, and Thailand, phenomenal.
As a pretty darn fearless guy, what's your biggest fear?
I don't want to jump out of an airplane. That would scare the hell out of me.
Maybe that's why you should go do it. My daughter did.
Did she?
Her big world traveler, biggest fear is heights. So she said, I got to overcome it. I got to jump out of an airplane. And she did it 2 weeks before she got married. And she tells the guy as she's strapped on him, you cannot let my legs break.
Brutal. I don't know. I would do it with the right person. Maybe I'll wait till I get married.
There you go. Favorite band?
Favorite band? That's, yeah. I'm not like so my music taste is I'm a country guy at the moment, but it's like whatever's on kind of the top hits. I will throw out just an interesting one from a movie. It's a fake band, but it's like part of who I am, from Erie, Pennsylvania. The Wonders from that movie, That Thing You Do. I'll say they're my favorite band.
And Matt, what is the best piece of life advice you have ever received?
I would say it's like twofold. No one's gonna do anything but yourself. You're not gonna get anything done without really pushing forward first on your own and like getting out there. But you can't do anything alone either. So you need, have family. Hopefully you have family support or friend support. And then when you're growing anything, you are going to need to trust people around you and have help, because no one can get anywhere alone.
Great advice. Wonderful advice. And Matt, give our listeners your social handles one more time.
Yeah, Twitter and Instagram is at Matt Manasse, and then TikTok is Pickleball McNasty.
Folks, our special guest today is Matt Manasse, pickleball coach to the stars. You heard all these people he's rubs elbows with and gives lessons to, founder and CEO of McNasty Entertainment, an athletic ambassador for K-Swiss, Global Brands, and many others that he mentioned here. Matt Manasse, thanks so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Of course, thank you, and thanks for the support. It was awesome. Always chatting with you, and your products are phenomenal. So that's one of my travel go-tos. So I really appreciate the support. Well, Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And folks, until next time, unplug from the indoors and recharge in the outdoors, playing pickleball.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Leader of the Pack. Don't forget to rate this podcast, and we would certainly be grateful if you'd give us 5 stars. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. Follow Duluth Pack on social media at Duluth Pack. And shop online at duluthpack.com. Don't forget to support American jobs and buy American made.